Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Cut to the Jase. We're coming off the back of a great podcast, which you've already received some exceptional feedback on with Mike Wells last week. Of course, I'm Braden Hazelhurst, website editor of basketball.com.au, and of course, joined by the main man himself in Jason Cadee. Jase, a lot of good feedback about the Mike Wells podcast.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, and it's like you can see people as a coach on the sidelines, and you can see everything that goes around it. That doesn't mean you understand the person just because you see them on TV or on a sideline each week, right? Like, and that's what I always said about Mike. And even I often make the joke. I'm like, I retired when he was my coach. I always used to say that to him as a joke, but I really enjoyed the person of Mike, and I think that came through in our podcast of. He's been around the game. Like, he always spoke to me about being on the bus. Like, he's on the bus of basketball for life. And he loves basketball. He lives, he breathes it. He's across it. And he's got so many great stories and been in so many great environments. And those kind of people don't get to be in those environments if they're bad people. You know what I mean? And I think that showed out in the podcast. And so I hope a lot of people got to see the personable side of Mike, which I got to see a lot of. And sure, I got to see some of the side where people sit and watch him go off on the sideline, or week two of being a coach throwing a clipboard across the court. Like, yes, there's the antics of it all, but the person, I think a lot of people got to see that, and that's why they enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't seen it, it's well worth a watch and a listen. But, the podcast went for an hour and 40 minutes. And just to give an insight to people, it could have went for 3 hours. We could have been testing the waters of a Joe Rogan podcast at some stage if we kept going with Mike. So make sure you go and check that out. Backing up from Mike Wells, we continue the great guests we have on. Today we've got NBL Championship big man, current free agent, of course. We assume he'll end up back in the NBL. I'm sure he will, in Marcus Lee. And Jase, we kind of spoke about this, but I love when we get great talents and great people who have come from overseas, or, Americans who are imports in the league and really want to make a home out of Australia in the NBL. And that's what Marcus has done here.
Yeah, and I think they're the guys that we've seen like forever now, right? You get some guys that come over, Americans, that never been here. They land, they have 1 year, and they're like, okay, this place, I don't want to leave. How do I come back here each year? And they're often a lot of the guys that they just blend in. It's like a recent memory, like a Lamar Patterson, right? Like, Lamar shows up and just becomes one of our favorite teammates, one of my favorite teammates, good basketball player and all that, but almost the bloke and the love for Australia. It almost keeps you here longer because people are like, oh, yeah, we'll take him in a heartbeat because we know what he brings. We know how much he loves it out here. And so I think Marcus has just become one of those guys as well, that he loves the country and he helps teams win games because of his tools, and he's something different.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of a lesson for, talents coming through in any sport, but in particular basketball, is how important you can be to great teams, even if you're a role player. Like, Marcus Lee has come out here. He's been a role player for teams. A lot of the time as the backup big. You look at the Tassie team when they won the championship. But he's arguably, one of the most important players and has a job each year in the NBL. So a bit of a lesson for people going forward in their careers. But, Jase, we say every week on the podcast that it's a big week in Australian basketball. To be honest, this week's actually been a pretty quiet week in Australian basketball.
No, it has been. And maybe it's because it's raining everywhere in Australia and everything's just dampened down a little bit at the moment. But no, it's one of those points right now where you always have those things where right now it's probably all about NBL 1 going on in all the different states. But everything internationally, everything NBL-wise slows down a little bit at this time. And then all of a sudden things start to get announced. Obviously, we'll talk about Blitz going to Bendigo. All those things start to pop up now where then it ramps up again. So there's always those little lulls, and this is probably our weekly lull of basketball chaos.
Absolutely. Now, we are coming off the State of Origin, which I know you're a New South Wales fan.
It's a great week, mate.
Yeah, you cannot be happy with that, by the way, because you guys were getting absolutely pantsed if you had to play 13 on 13. And now you're going to get absolutely waxed in Game 2 and Game 3. Typical New South Wales people think they're ahead and everything, and they're going to get flogged in Game 2 and 3. So,
listen, I'm really realistic with how things play out, and I'm more stoked we won because that's a game that we still normally lose.
True.
We don't score at the end, we lose, and then I hear about Queensland's spirit for the next 3 weeks into game 2. So I'm just happy we actually won game 1 in that situation, because I've seen that situation before and we haven't won. So
that is true.
Either or, the experience of Origin lives on, because everyone talking about it, we all have those moments where you're like, what, this, that, and so Origin once again wins.
Unfortunately, I have some New South Wales people in my team, and I had to remind them in film, just had a presentation ready to go with how many series wins and how many game wins that Queensland have. So
see, that's the classic Queenslander thing too. That the moment you lose a game, we go back to just talking about 8 in a row. Let's just go back.
Well, yeah, it's something we can talk about. You guys can't really talk about that, so we hold on to it. But anyway, you mentioned it, the NBL Blitz heading to Bendigo Red Energy Arena in early September. Big tournament down there and a great chance to get out to a rural town and a town that's crazy about basketball. Obviously, you know, I'm there for WNBL and see how basketball crazy those people are and how much they love it. So that's going to be a big week, Jase.
No, it will be. I think it's. I don't know if it's been in Bendigo before.
2018, I believe.
I was going to say, I was trying to think if it was Bendigo or Ballarat, or was a mix of places, but I think we've seen, obviously Bendigo's had that new stadium for a little while now. They do such a great job with the women's WNBL and their junior programs. So we know how much and how big basketball is down there. United have their few games there as well. So look, it's a little bit different than the than the Canberra Gold Coast ones, but we all know that these kind of events where you bring all the players into one place is great for communities, and for anyone in Melbourne or travelling, like, they'll get to go down and basketball's on the one spot. So I think it'll be really good.
And then next, I think this came out before our last podcast, but Hoops Fest being booked into Perth for the next 2 seasons, which is, I think it's going to be even longer and bigger and better next year. And Jase, last year was my first experience of Hoops Fest, and we're only at the start of it. We didn't get to stick around for much because we were the first game, but it's a sensational event.
Yeah, and we spoke about this last year. It probably needs to be that extra day where you kind of get everyone playing across the thing, and now we do. We have the men and women playing each day. The one thing that we spoke about too is that I'd love to see is, let's make sure teams are there for at least 3 days.
Yeah.
Let's have teams in around so they don't just fly in the night before, play, and then leave. I think if we want to make that experience better, the best thing for me is if you ever throw basketballers into an environment and they've got a few days, they'll show up at the games because they'll just show up at the games. So yeah. I'm hoping that part of the scheduling with this is, if you play on the Friday night, you kind of land Wednesday night, Thursday, and then you fly out the next day. So they have that interaction of players walking around venues, coaches walking around the venue. I just think that'll add to the experience, and that's the next evolution of Hoops Fest growing, where people know if they fly to Perth, they're going to be able to go get photos with all different players and watch different games. And I think Perth have done a pretty good job with it, even though it is far away for us East Coasters. Yeah. But I think they do a good job with it.
And if anyone wants to ask, I'm sure the host of Cut to the Jase will be there. If you want any photos or any signatures, just let us know.
Well, we might have to do some planning. We might have to do a couple of live shows.
Podcast. Yes, we might have to do
that. So that might be our thing this year at Hoops Fest. We might try and pre-plan. Yeah. We'll get Daz and we'll film a live show over there.
Absolutely. So if there's any venues in Perth that want to host us for a live podcast around Hoops Fest, let us know and we'll try and get that sorted early. But on the NBL, Jase, the schedule just got released. The season starts off with 13 games in 9 days. Starts on September 19, and this is a big one. Melbourne United and Joe Ingles hosting the Adelaide 36ers. Of course, Joe is from Adelaide and everything, but that's a massive game to tip off the season.
No, it is. We get our biggest signing that will be. I don't see how that changes anytime soon, unless maybe Paddy signs and people say that's bigger, but I think at the moment, Joe coming back to the NBL, playing for United, and then obviously going up against Adelaide, who are going to have Trevor Gleeson as their head coach. It's when you start thinking about games, it's when you start getting excited about basketball again, because you start to see the kind of what's being presented. So it's great to see the schedule. It'll be interesting to go through it and see kind of who feels like they got rorted and so on. But we're all here again where we're talking about schedules already.
Yeah, and interesting enough, Brisbane Bullets host New Zealand on the 22nd of September, and that game's at Pat Rafter Arena at the Tennis Centre, so that'll be an interesting watch to see how that looks at a different venue. And then the first Championship Series rematch is on October 11 between, of course, the Sydney Kings and the Adelaide 36ers. The Adelaide 36ers, of course, now with Trevor Gleeson at the helm. So some interesting matchups there for the opening week of the NBL. And just to finish, before we go into our chat with Marcus Lee, Jay, some big news in the WNBL. They've spoken about sort of expanding into the Asian market. We saw Hanzhou come to Perth last year and how much of a success that was, not only for the Lynx, but for the league and the interest in the league and the crowds and the Asian market following and the Chinese fans coming out to games and everything. But Wang Siyu, otherwise known as Rainey or the Clutch Queen, a Chinese national team player, signing with the Southside Flyers. Our good mate Sammy McKinnon getting her down there. Another big addition for interest surrounding the WNBL.
Yeah, no, and I think it only helps, right? We've seen the Hanshu impact that she had across different venues, even in Perth. Like you saw the home fans they were getting. So I think Rainey coming down and being around as well, I think that's a sign of that these girls want to come out here and play. And it's also it's a sign that these girls are telling each other how much they're enjoying it. Like, let's be honest, that's a big part of it. I don't think she just shows up out of the blue if Han didn't really enjoy her time out here. I'd be really interested now to see if Han Shu is someone that comes back and plays as well, and we start to have a few of those girls in around the WNBL, as I think it just helps the exposure. I think it helps the level, and I think they're girls that can actually contribute and play good parts on teams.
Yeah, and I'm sure those crowds at the State Basketball Centre in Melbourne are going to be huge. Like, Southside already had a pretty good following. I loved, when we played there and everything, but I'm sure that's going to go to the next level, of course, with Rainey there next season. So big things happening in the WNBL, but now it's time for our special guest interview with Marcus Lee. Welcome back to Cut to the Jase. It's time, as always, for our special guest interview segment. And today, another very special guest. We've got NBL Championship big man, current free agent, which we might get into in a little bit. But Marcus Lee on the show. Marcus, welcome to Cut to the Jase, mate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
We spoke about you joining for a little bit, mate, so it's good to get you on board. Talk to us quickly about your off-season. Obviously, the NBL ends, and then everyone in Australia, the timing of our season ending means people get to venture off. So how's your off-season been so far? Well, not really off-season, but you're a trip away from Australia.
Yeah, no, actually, it's been fun. I started off in the Philippines, playing with the Beermen, which was cool because they just come off a championship. So that being there is crazy. They're insane fan base. I got to play in Manila, which was really cool because the thrill at Manila was there, which was a cool historical gym to go see. Then I went to Malaysia and played in the Asian East BCL Champions League, which was a fun time to go. I was able to adventure out and kind of play different positions for the first time in a while, which was really cool. At one point, was leading my team in assists and almost pretty much had a double in assists and rebounds, which is the first for me. So
you were the point guard.
I was our starting point guard, and it was really fun. We're going back to like the high school roots.
What that was your first time, right, over playing in those both countries, or just?
Yeah, first time playing in those countries. Usually I'll do like a Europe or right now Puerto Rico is really popular, so I did that early in my career.
And what were your thoughts? Obviously, first time, different countries, different basketball. Is it something that you surprised you, or was kind of to expectation?
Definitely surprised me. The level of basketball is really high out there, which was really cool. It surprised me a little because there's only one import available in the Philippines, and then I was able to get used to that, which was really fun, and kind of just being able to experience different cultures is kind of like my big thing. So that's what made it really worth it for me.
Let's jump to your NBL time, because you've had a pretty good NBL career so far since you joined. You joined in 22-23 where you started with United. What led to you coming out to Australia?
Actually, it was completely random. If anybody remembers, they had Jordan, I can't remember his last name, but they ended up having a four-man, but they needed a five-man, and I was in Spain, and my Spain team needed a four-man but had me.
Oh, I do remember this.
So everybody called it like the first European-Australian trade, It was really funny to be a part of it, but actually worked out really well. And then the next part of that is we ended up having a great season with United, and everybody speculated if we were able to make playoffs, we probably would have won that year.
So that was the year that they got off to a really slow start, and then obviously you came in, and then everything turned in the back half of the year. You didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
What do you remember most about that whole transition and coming into that group?
The greatest part of the group was amazing. It was so easy to just get incorporated. Dean was so great as being my first Australian coach or coach in Australia. And then, going against, Tassie as our last game, winning it, but not winning it by enough points was like the breaker. And we were like, man, if we were there, because we finally built up to being such a good team.
That's why I'm really jealous, Braden and Marcus, about the playing game not coming in earlier. Because I had about 2 years in Brisbane where we missed out by percentage. And one game was Cairns. We had to win by 35 or more to be a chance. We win by 37. And then United win the next day and just ruin our whole thing. But
Hang on. Let's not act like we're jealous about it. First, those Brisbane teams weren't going to do anything in the playoffs, not to be rude.
You say that, but if you go back, we were actually doing the same thing. We were playing good basketball. It just wasn't until too late.
And then second of all, Marcus, he forgets that his last year with Adelaide, they had a chance in the play-in and were up by 20-something at halftime. What's the go?
Hey, that's why I said I wish it came in earlier. Earlier, Braden.
But, with potentially more teams coming in, we could expand our playoff brackets, which would be really fun to see.
Yeah, that is true.
The next year you go on and make that move to Tassie in free agency. Obviously went on to be a pretty good year, which we'll get into. And you kind of end up, the backup to Will, but you end up starting a lot of times because obviously Will has some injury history and everything like that. What led to that move, and what was that process like in joining Tassie?
It was it's funny because the Tassie United games and kind of beef is real. Like, they really don't like mess with each other. So it's a little weird. Like, all right, now I have to go to like quote unquote enemy territory, and then you spend the whole year there, and you go back to the other enemy. So you're like, your mind's all jumbled. Like, who do I hate now? But it's cool being able to see two great teams in two different parts of their, lifespan, and they were able to grind a lot more. And both coaches really took pride in what they were teaching you, making sure you knew the culture, and kind of made sure you took accountability for everything you did. Those are the kind of coaches that I really enjoyed.
At what point in that season, and obviously that was the year that you won it all, what point could you tell that group was like, everyone always thinks they're a chance to do something, but at what point could you really notice that, like, okay, this could be a special group and this may lead to something really special?
I honestly thought it pretty early, just because you can always have that vibe of a team, and no matter if we're winning, losing, we're always together. We're playing card games while we're traveling. And we were always up in spirit. We never felt like we could lose a game. And that's kind of how you're in like a high chance of going all the way, is when you have that good vibes and you're kind of always in that calm mode. Like, even with a bunch of our last second shots that happened that year, especially with Jack Louvet, you were never really like, man, we're going to lose this game, or man, our season might be over. It's like, we thought, like, oh, we have a minute left. We're gonna knock this out. Like, it was kind of always confident.
Take us through that championship series, because funnily enough, against United, like you just said, and it just adds that rivalry. But that championship was one that was just it was a wild series. Like, we've had some really wild series the last few years, and that was one of them. Will gets hurt, Jack hits that shot. Just talk us through that series and what that was like being a part of it.
It was insane because we had a bunch of things happen. Like, I got ejected for a last-second block shot, which was really random. Mags gets hurt but comes back, and then I get hurt for the whole season. I tore my ACL or my MCL and was out for essentially the whole rest of the series. Jack McVay kind of going crazy for almost the whole playoff series, and then being led by guys like Milt and Jase, who are they're just constantly calm.
Yeah.
Like you never see anybody on the. And I think that's the majority of that team. Like we were all like calm people and kind of like even scaled the whole way through. Like Milt, Jack, Mags, like we even had Lucky Barker. Like we had so many guys that were just like were never stressed, and I think that was what really made that a big team.
Who was the MVP of the celebrations? I'm gonna say Magne was up there.
Mags is always up there, Mags is a goer, and I love that about him. Like he definitely he's the reason why he was one of our captains. Is like he brought the energy every day, and he was definitely pushing whether it was on the court or off the court. He was going.
The next year you moved back to United, as you said, you're switching sides almost every year.
He loved the rivalry so much. I just played for both.
Just play for both, yeah.
First question, it's a two-parter. First question is, did you cop some things from your ex-teammates about switching sides and everything several years? What was that like?
I think when I went back to United, I had Drim constantly hitting me every time he like saw me on the court.
That doesn't sound like Dream at all.
Oh yeah, I had Deng immediately like talking trash and talking shit to me. Like once he sees me, like it's all in great fun. But especially when you're competing against like people that you truly know really well, it gets heightened and you start taking those games seriously.
And then we speak about crazy championship series. You go and have another one the next season with United. Can you take us through what that one was like with Illawarra? Again, had all the ups and downs and everything that these crazy series we've had in recent years have had.
Yeah, that was the team where I felt like we had every piece we absolutely needed. I think big man combo was immaculate, but me and Mags worked amazing together. But also me and Rob Lowe were like a great in and out combo that we kind of were able to throw two different views on the court. But I still say that's probably the craziest playoff series in NBL history with no team winning a home game.
Yeah,
Like that doesn't happen.
What was it like after that? Because obviously United had lost several series in a row, grand final series in a row at this point, and it just looked obviously disappointment normal, but it just looked, especially the guys who'd been there several years, that it was just another level of sort of anguish and disappointment after that series. What was that like to experience?
Yeah, I think it kind of just hurt, like that was one of the ones where like everybody who was playing there have been with United for a while, have played with them multiple times, or have been with Dean for forever. And it's just like, it hurts so much because we wanted it so bad.
Was off the back of that joining Cairns, was Jack a big reason to get you up to Cairns?
100%. Jack called me immediately once he signed. He's like, "Hey, I want you here, bro." And there was like, wasn't really a question. He was kind of just telling me that I'm gonna be there.
That's a great way to recruit. Hey, mate, this is where you're going to play next year, so I'll see you soon.
We're getting the Marcus Lee tour of Cairns at the moment.
Yeah, getting the tour.
This is an interesting one because, as you said, you've played for three great coaches in Dean Vickerman, Scott Roth, and Adam Ford. Talk us through the three of those, the differences, things that you just seen in them which were really noticeable playing for all three.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting with the one I just had with 40, he's a statistic. He's just elite when it comes to statistics, how to get the most out of guys where they're both statistically good at. And I think the only thing is just, injuries hurt that last year, and that was about it. But like him and the coach, being able to dissect film, dissect stats, he just did it at such an immaculate way that you were just amazed and like you were learning so much as you were going, with Dean kind of he's the legend here, and he had everything figured out with how practice was going, how we were going to recover, how we were traveling, how we were watching film. Like everything was down to a science with him. And it's amazing seeing guys like that. And then you go to Scott Roth, who's demanding so much of you. And because he knows your limit, but he's going to push you exactly above that limit. And I think that's the best thing with that team in general is that we put in so much extra work because that's what not of just what he asked, but he forced us to ask that of everybody, you know?
Before we go into the rest of your career, I want to ask a couple of questions to finish off with the NBL. What's made you stay here for so long? Like, what have you loved about not only Australia, but the league and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think this is probably the best league setup anywhere. You know, it's the NBL has it figured out when it comes to travel, accommodations, player salary, and just the culture of the NBL. You know, you have so many guys that just come here and you want to stay here because it's how great it is and how well created it is. Like they're constantly changing things every year, but it's still well put together from top down. I tell us from everybody that the best way to describe it is each team is created like a business. It's not just like a makeshift team like a lot of European teams are. So it gives you a lot of like ease to just play basketball.
And sorry, Jase, are you in the process of wanting to become an Aussie and stick around?
Yeah, I'm currently in the process. We start our what is it called? Residency, our permanent residency this in the next couple months, which would lead me to be an Aussie citizen this time next year.
Yeah, nice. And is Australia, like a lot of people talk when they travel about they just get to a place and that's them? Is that what Australia's been for you and your wife?
Yeah, 100%. We've talked about it like, oh, where do we even just see ourselves retiring and just kind of living for the foreseeable future? And we're like, we definitely love Australia, and that's the main, like, one of our big pushes to be like, all right, let's work on getting this citizenship if we want to stay here even after basketball, you know? And I think that's what really drove us, is that we just love the culture of Australia.
Where are you at? Obviously, we're into free agency and all that thing. So, what's it look like at the moment for you? Obviously, you just spoke about how much you love Australia. So, the plan is to try and stay here. Where's all that at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment we've been talking to a couple different teams out here, but coming back, I've talked to my agent. I'm like, hey, I really don't want to deal with any of this right now. This is all up to you. I'm taking like a little break and it's taking a step back out of basketball and kind of just getting my body back to normal, getting a little bit more weight put on me, and getting back into the gym after a little bit of break.
I want to go right back now because you've had a journey that a lot of people, especially from Australia, where you've played and what you've done in your early years. Let's go back. What was it like being part of the McDonald's All-American and the Jordan Brand Classic? Even like in Australia, they're two things that we all know and hear about. What was that like as a youngster?
It's surreal, to be honest, because growing up in a place where I grew up, not many people come out of there to do just about anything. You know, it's not a great place to kind of grow and to be the one of probably billions to get selected for the McDonald's All-American. It's something that was always a goal, and then surprisingly popped up out of nowhere, you know. But ended up playing with three of the guys that I went to college with on that. Well, four of those guys were on the team with me in college. And then, but it's because the first thing you do is you actually work at McDonald's for the McDonald's All-American. You do like a promo, you work there, and it's one, humbling, but really fun. And then you travel to Chicago and play those games. You get all the gear, and it's just one of those memories you would never forget, you know?
Was the Jordan Brand Classic similar or a very different feel?
It was similar feel. I think the McDonald's All-American has more history behind it.
Yeah.
but it was still an amazing thing to do because you essentially had the same top 30 guys with you for a month, going from one to the other. And it's cool just to like be not in competition fully. You're not going on 1,000%, and the only goal is to win the game. Like you're actually able to like enjoy and kind of communicate with each other, see like the similarities of how you guys go about life, and kind of just do teenage stuff, you know?
Yeah. You get to off the back of that, like you said, you sign with Kentucky, and Kentucky's a school. If we kind of talk about early years, especially coming through, everyone used to talk about UNC, Duke, and Kentucky. So you kind of end up at, I know there's plenty more big schools, but those three are always been some. You then go on to California, but at Kentucky you play with some stacked teams. Julius Randle, the Harrison twins, James Young, who played out here in the NBL1 not long ago, Willie Cauley-Stein, like the names go on. What was that experience like first choosing Kentucky? Why did you choose there? And then what was it like those early years of college being at Kentucky?
Yeah, I ended up choosing Kentucky because the biggest thing was where do I go to compete every day to get better, you know? And when I saw the roster that I was going into, I was like, there's no other people that I get to go against on a daily basis and get better. Like we had some of the best coaching staff in college sports history. And I'm going against guys like Willie Cauley-Stein. I'm going against Dakari Johnson. I'm going against Julius Randle. Like these are the best of the best. I went against Karl Anthony Towns every day. You know, there's a reason why, you know, I consider myself one of the best defensive players when it comes to the pick and roll, is because I had to deal with those guys every day.
Yeah, that helps.
That year, do you remember in 2014, Willie Cauley-Stein gets injured? You step up in the Elite Eight of the March Madness or the NCAA tournament against Michigan. What was that like? What was the mindset like, having to step up in such a big moment?
It was great because honestly, I started that season starting a lot of those games, and then I remember having a back injury probably mid to early season, and it took me a while to get back. When I finally was able to get back, Willie had solidified himself back as the starting center. So it was kind of like constantly being ready, and that was something that Coach Cal always like put in my head. Hey, no matter what, always be ready, because you never know what was going to happen. And then when I had to step in, it was like there was no fear, there was no thought about anything. It was just go and do it.
Coach Cal, you mentioned him. We spoke about a list of pretty good coaches you played for. Talk to me about him. What was it like playing for someone who's so well respected, and kind of like, I guess you're going through that journey from kind of coming out of being a kid, so to say, growing into a man. What was it like having someone like him running the show and playing for him?
It's amazing. Because he's one of those guys where you have to kind of be on your P's and Q's at all points in time. In practice, you're going at the best, and that was kind of his big thing. Is like, we're gonna make sure you're battle tested before these games even happened. Like we started off the season unlike other teams where we played like the Michigan States, we played against the Kansas, we played against, you know, the Dukes. The first 3 games of the season where other teams are playing against like fluff teams. You know, they're playing against D3s and low D1s. Where we were like, oh no, we're going into battle tomorrow.
Any crazy stories from your time with him? I'm sure there's a bunch, but
there's a bunch. But the first one I remember is getting in a fight with Alex Poythress. If you know Alex Poythress, he's got like at that time maybe 30 pounds on me. Like he was. I'm going into a gym as a freshman at a 190 soaking wet. He's like 230. With 2 years on me, and we're doing this rebounding drill. You know those little the rim cappers where it can't go in.
Yep.
We're playing a rebounding drill, and I'm just exhausted. And I give him a huge shove and push him on the ground. And he looks at me, and I see his eyes, and I'm like, "Fuck, we're about to go at this." And we went at it, and the coach was just sitting there letting it happen until we stopped.
It's funny how some coaches, when they've been around a while, they're like, "Yeah, I'm just going to let this play out. Like this is not going to go too far. It's still going far, but we'll let this go for a little bit longer."
Yeah, because he let it go because one, he knew both me and Alex are good guys, so there was no ill intent. We're just competing, and we're both men who like to win, and that. After he was like, "That's what I love. This is the whole point of all of this is to get you guys truly battling and fighting," and that's kind of what clicked in my head of how much I have to work harder.
You mentioned Carl Anthony Towns, Trey Lyles, and then there's kind of at that stage, obviously people coming in and out so quickly, especially through Kentucky. Which of those groups stood out to you, and why?
It's definitely the 38-1 team. That was, in my opinion, that's going to be the best team, college basketball team ever to play the game. And I won't be able, I can't debate it with anybody else because people are going to throw around teams. And I'm like, you can't compare to that regardless. Like I take that team over any championship team, any other team you want to throw at. People have mentioned the Duke teams that have been recent. I'm like, they're nowhere near us when it comes to that.
There's our social clip right there.
Do any of those guys stand out amongst all? Like, I know we can all say they're all very good in their own right, but does anyone stand out, especially after seeing him day to day, where you're just like, nah, he is for real?
I think three that stand out. It's the Karl Anthony Towns, the Devin Booker, and the Jamal Murrays. Like, I've seen those people work out so hard, and you couldn't tell them otherwise. Like, at one point, Coach Cal is screaming at Cat to, be a back to the basket player, be a tough guy, and to like stop shooting so many threes. And he would be like, "No, that's what I do. It's what I'm going to continue to do, and you can deal with it. And this is how I'm going to play." And that's kind of the craziest thing. But it's like you'd be so confident. It now reminds me of Jack McVay, where Jack McVay is like,
yeah, fair.
Regardless, I'm shooting the shot that I want, and if it goes in, cool. If it doesn't, I'm going to take that same shot next time.
That's a great comparison.
One's slightly bigger. One's slightly bigger.
Same paycheck now, though, these days. Same paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah, very close. Very close. I've actually lost what I was going to ask you next. I do. Isaac Humphries. You obviously were out here playing, but when I first started to know more about you, it was through Isaac. You and him have a great relationship. Just talk to me quickly about how that came about and how that now, still obviously you've been in Australia, gets to flourish.
Yeah, first off, congrats to him. He just got the 30 under 30 Australia, which is crazy news.
Yeah, I messaged him yesterday. That's made up. That's not real.
Really?
Any Forbes list I've ever seen. Listen, it's not made up, but any Forbes list I've ever seen has been about money and stuff. And now I've just seen some random 30 under 30, and he's on it. And I messaged him yesterday saying, "Bro, you got this made up somehow, AI." And he messaged me back and goes, "You can never let me have anything." I said, "I've got to keep you humble, Isaac, because if I don't, no one will."
Oh yeah, that's how I feel about Jack McVay. If I don't talk to shit to him, no one will. Even now, when it comes to Jack McVay, even now with Jack, I'll see he'll have like 30 and then like 2 assists and like 2 rebounds. I'm like, man, you should pass more. Never. But
no, talk to me about Ice.
Nah, Isaac has been one of my closest friends for a long time. I think we met my junior year, my junior year, and we've been in the same best friend group since then. It was connection very easily because one, we were going through the same kind of moments at Kentucky, and then him giving me a call and recommending me with Dean to go to United with him that year was one of it saved me and put me in a good position, but we were able to be there for each other, and I think that was the perfect time for it. No,
it's he always spoke so highly of someone he could rely on in any different situation on and off the floor, and I think that's for me what basketball's about. It's the relationships you get to make in and around the game. Couple ones to finish, because obviously we could keep talking about college experiences for a long time. What you said it, and I probably know the answer. Like, but the toughest guy you gone against, either college or pros.
I would. It's a hard one. I've played against so many.
Give me a couple of guys that stand out, because I also hate this question. So me asking is actually really poor of myself.
I would want to say. I'm trying to think. I think Xavier Cooks is up there for me because he's just he plays so different than everybody else that it's hard to get used to playing, like, to defend. Another guy like that would be Julius Randle, where he's so agile, but at such a unique body type that it's just hard to defend. And I don't know who else. Honestly, I've played against so many people. It's hard to just categorize it or bring it down to just a couple.
No, it's always a hard question, especially when you played for a while, because recency bias is a thing, and then you start to think back about guys you played against in your early years, and you're like, oh, wait up, I played against them and I haven't even thought about them.
Right. Like another guy I would say is probably Frank Kaminsky that played at Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's true too. He was good.
Yeah, or Taco Falls, who we played 2 years ago.
He was a big dog.
Yeah, I'm like in a defensive stand guarding him. I'm like at his belly button. I'm like, this isn't fair. But now I see how like other people guard me. But this is extremely not fair.
He was one with Isaac. I used to say, used to love Ice. I was like, you love guarding Taco, just so big and just throws his elbows around. And Isaac's like, I hate it.
Yeah. You're absolutely exhausted. You're like, after like 2-3 minutes, you're like, Coach, get me out of here. I'm exhausted. Like just bumping him and just dealing with him is so much work.
He was a big man. Who and this is probably going to be one of your teammates that you've changed between. Who's the biggest shit talker in the NBL?
After watching this last series, I would probably go with I originally would have picked Drimmick, but I'm still gonna pick Drimmick, to be honest. Yeah.
Drim's up there. I used to love winding Drim up in games. It was the best.
Hey, your teammate Jack would be one. I was at the Blitz and you guys were playing Tassie, and Ben Ayre was giving Jack shit when Jack was on the bench, and it just went quiet. And Jack said, "Hey Benny, why don't you just concentrate on getting on the court this year?" And then it all just sort of went quiet after that.
Oh yeah, Jack once Jack gets going, there's no stopping him. But Ben Ayre is definitely like, he'll talk shit to a piece of wood.
That is facts. What's your, like, if we're gonna finish this off, what's your personal highlight so far, NBL or just career wise?
Obviously my personal highlights is the our Tassie championship. That's kind of been like one of my goals in my basketball career is to win championships. So that's 100% was my highlight. And then honestly, coming back from some of these injuries, like last year was my thumb, the year before was my ACL. And the ACL was like a really big one where I was not sure if I was able to be able to keep going. And kind of finding that new love of the grind really helped me out. And I've definitely grown to be a better player after those 2 years.
That's awesome, mate. Well, thanks for your time so much today. Really appreciate having you on Cut to the Jason. I think as Australian basketball fans, we love nothing more than, when talents come over here and love the NBL and try to make a home in Australia and everything. So we look forward to seeing what's in the near future for you and which team you join next. I'm sure that'll be a championship contender and everything like that. But we thank you for your time on Cut to the Jase.
Oh, man. Thank you guys for having me.
The Triple Threat Tournament's Rising Stars is brought to you by Triple Threat Tournaments. Triple Threat Tournaments is a premier Queensland-based basketball organiser dedicated to bridging the gap between local youth talent and elite competition. Inspired by the high-intensity USA AAU circuits, We provide structured tournaments, clinics, and camps that prioritize skill development, leadership, and sportsmanship.
Welcome back to Cut to the Jase. Of course, a great interview there with Marcus Lee. But now it's time for our Triple Threat Tournaments Rising Stars segment, of course, brought to you by the magnificent team at Triple Threat Tournaments, led by Daniel Bolton. And just to go, as we always do, go through their upcoming events. Dyson Daniels Camp on June 28, and we're working on trying to have him on the podcast, and hopefully we can make that happen. Mac McClung at Gold Coast on June 30, and then at Seahawks on the Gold Coast on July 1st. And not only that, he's going to do a bit of a camp and everything, Jase, and then he's going to do a workout in front of fans and everything. Now, for those who know Mac McClung and his high-flying abilities and everything, I'm sure that workout will be one to watch. And then, of course, Josh Giddey in town in Brisbane on August 9. But our first point for our Rising Stars segment, Adelaide Lightning, and I love to see homegrown talents get signed by their professional sporting teams, but Coco Hodges signing as a development player with the Adelaide Lightning. Now, Jase, I've had a bit of experience coaching against Coco Hodges at under-20s last year when she played for SA, and then a couple of years earlier where she played for SA Metro at the under-18s with, of course, Lara Somfe, and they were able to win a national championship. A really high IQ player, great defender, can play the point, can play the two, an exceptional talent, a great signing there for Adelaide, Jase. But just through your experiences and everything, it's obviously really exciting to see these professional teams bringing through homegrown talent.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, and I think especially for younger players coming through, the ability those first few years at times to still be at home, be in an environment they're comfortable, because it can be a lot of learnings when you're going through. You're no longer playing against kids your own age. You're playing against seniors every day, and it's one of those environments. It's no longer 2-3 days a week and I'm working out and training. You're every day going at it in a professional environment. So I think it helps, and you can only have to look at right now what she's doing in the NBL 1 to know that she's a bright talent. And I think what they're trying to do in Adelaide, and I'm not surprised when Tess Madgen's part of that furniture and what she's doing, having someone like Tess involved is only going to help the program, and Coco's a sign that program's going to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out, as you mentioned, to the NBL 1 and playing for a local club in the West Adelaide Bearcats. Now, when I played juniors in Adelaide, I'm more of a Sturt Sabres type of guy. But
I'm a West Adelaide guy, man. I played 1 year there.
Did you?
I played a year there, yeah.
Did you have the old stadium in Port Adelaide?
Yeah, me and Daniel Johnson played for West Adelaide.
There you go.
Finished on top, lost in the grand final.
And I'm going to give a little bit of shit to our mate. I'm sure you know him as well. I think you'd know him. You played for Adelaide when he was there. Adam Doyle at the Forestville Eagles. Now,
Doyle's at Forestville.
I went to school with Doyley, and I just want to say Forest will have some work to do, Jase, because they might have had the most stacked team in NBL 1 Central history last year and didn't get the chocolates and didn't make the grand final. So Forest will have some work to do, and the Sturt Sabres are playing well this year. So watch out to Doyley. He's got to get the job done this year. But for our next point with the Rising Stars segment, Jase, you had something that you wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah, just obviously last year we had a lot of kids go to this next-gen camp that's in Treviso, and this year we've got some bright talent coming through. We spoke about Jaden Cecil a couple of weeks ago, who will be on the podcast after this camp, but he gets to go over as a youngster, and Max McKinnon, amongst a few others who are still being announced, but Max McKinnon will head over, and I think that's for Max, obviously coming what he's done in college. We spoke about he had him on the show. I think that'll be a great chance for him to show out in that environment where you've got all these next-gen teams. It's going to be coached by Phil Handy. So a lot of eyeballs on a week like that, and that's coming up next week. So I think that kind of camp is massive for some of our youngsters, and it'd be interesting to see how Max goes, given how well he's done at some of the things he's done so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Sam said when he was on the podcast, Max a chance, hopefully, at trying to get a two-way contract or something in the NBA. And if not, hopefully he ends up back here in the NBL. But that's all we have time for on the Triple Threat Tournaments Rising Stars segment. And actually, that's all we have time for on the podcast today. We're not going to do JC 5 points because, as a matter of fact, there hasn't been that much happening this past week. So we'll bring that segment back next week. But thanks to Marcus Lee for his time. Of course, thanks to Jase. And we'll see you all next week on Cut to the Jase.